Welcome to the Long Covid podcast with me, Jackie Baxter. I am really excited to bring you today's episode. Please do check out the links in the show notes where you can find the podcast website, social media and support group, as well as a link to buy me a coffee if you are able. You should not rely on any medical information contained in this podcast and related materials in making medical, health-related or other decisions. Please do consult a doctor or other health professional. I love to hear from you. If you've got any suggestions or feedback or just want to say hey, then please do get in touch. I really hope you enjoy this episode, so here we go. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Long Covid podcast. I am delighted to be joined by Jess today, and we are going to be talking about the new app called Turnto and what it is and how it can help. So a very warm welcome to the podcast today.
Hi, Jackie and everyone.
So fun to have you here. Maybe to start with, would you just say a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do, I guess?
Yeah, so I'm the founder of a health tech platform called Turnto, which we can talk more about. I'm also someone with lived experience in health space. So I actually had, it's really funny, I don't often talk about it, but I did have ME/CFS severely for 12 years ago for 2 years. And then I also have kids with cerebral palsy. So being a patient advocate has been part of my life journey. And I've always sort of been in the space of social impact work, worked for a bunch of groups. I've founded a few different things and just love building things with people.
Yeah. And what gave you the idea for an app? Was this something you'd done before? Or did you just wake up one morning and go, hey, I've got this great idea? And I say that because that's exactly the sort of thing that I would do. I would wake up one morning with this ridiculous idea out of nowhere.
I do that, yes. Yes, I mean, there's a bit of a story to how it sort of came about. And I think it's not about the solution. I think it's often about the problem. Whether for me, it was about experiencing the problem through many things which I can sort of share about, and then trying to work out how to start solving the problem. And what the app is right now is we've just gone live to Long COVID and ME/CFS days ago, so it's very, very early.
So yeah, let's get into this then. So I mean, it's a very wide question, but what is Turnto? Maybe that's where we start.
Yeah, so I guess it comes back to this experience I had, not from having ME/CFS, interestingly enough, because when I had that, it was many years ago, and the way I was impacted was I really struggled to use my eyes, and I used to lie in the dark most of the day, and so I didn't, and there was just very little happening online, and I didn't know how to negotiate information very well. But when I had my one son, he has a rare type of cerebral palsy, and I think having once been a patient and been at the end of a medical system when the answers aren't there, it's a very destabilizing experience when you've always thought the answers are there. Well, of course the doctor will know, will help me. But having had that lived experience and not having that, and then having my son, when he was diagnosed, he was 18 months old, and I went along to this medical appointment. I had this big wad of research papers, and the consultant just said to me, don't bother reading any of that. Nothing's going to help him. There's nothing you can do. Good luck, goodbye. Very seriously, that was the experience. And I think because I'd had my own personal story, I was like, hold on, probably not true. Let's see what the crowd says. Let's see what research says. So I had this experience, which I think many people have, of falling into every rabbit hole you can find on the internet. And very, very early on, I found a treatment for him that we tried. I'm really into research, but this was kind of just a blog. I was very desperate. It was late one night, ordered some piece of equipment. He was almost 2 at the time, and he could never sit. He just lay flat on the ground. And we tried this piece of bodysuit. It's a proprioception suit, and he instantly sat up perfectly, and we took it all off and he kept sitting. And to this day, he's got a beautiful. So we were like, what? There's things we can do, but it's totally on me. I was just and that was again, having had that experience myself, So I just thought life's given us an invitation. I went on this massive journey for a few years, reading every paper. I had the health to be able to do what I couldn't do for myself at the time when I was unwell. Hounding every world leader. We ended up traveling the world, and I was sitting at an international conference for cerebral palsy, the first time they'd ever let health consumers attend. And I'm sitting in this session feeling very much like a fish out of water. And this world leader is just talking about one thing after another of these amazing treatments. And a lot of them were very accessible. They were not sort of expensive things you can do at home. And I actually put my hand up in the conference and I just said, you shouldn't have to fly halfway around the world to learn about treatments. Like, this should be available on my phone. And so that was it. That was the idea, Jackie. I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to solve this. And really the problem that we want to solve is that health breakthrough information lives everywhere. It like lives in papers, it lives in trials and trial findings. It lives with end users, consumers, patients, whatever you want to use the word. It lives with clinicians. And the problem isn't just that it lives everywhere, it's that we're not capturing it quickly enough. So things that could be working in small groups of people or subgroups, aren't capturing it quickly enough for what us patients need. So that's the problem of like what we want to solve. And so I took that idea, I built a website very early on. I took our house deposit and decided not to buy a house, but to start a startup. Because you get one life, right? And we built a product where we just found every treatment that we could that exists for cerebral palsy, which were hundreds of treatments. We got hundreds of treatment reviews, and then we last year started building the app with the same problem that we want to solve is how do we capture and share all the different health breakthrough information. And this is all health breakthrough information. So breakthroughs can be anything from a new medication through to anything that improves your quality of life.
Yeah, this is amazing because I think you're right. That information, a lot of it is out there, but it's not always easy to find. And even like something like a podcast is great because it shares all this information, but it's only good if you know it exists. And some people will go looking for that, and some people will actually not even have the kind of cognitive ability sometimes to actually remember that a podcast is a thing. And it would take someone to actually share it with them, like an app or like a person passing it on. So yeah, this is really cool. And all of these things that are helping people, whether it's, as you say, kind of breathing or medicines, pharmaceuticals, whatever, it's sharing that information, isn't it? So people have access to that. So when they go, oh, well, you get some doctors, I mean, like the one you described, right? Who said, there's nothing we can do for you. It's like, well, actually, there's a million and one things that we can do because all of these people are trying them and are helping them. You just sometimes maybe need a little bit of help to work out where to start, don't you? Because it can be a bit overwhelming when you suddenly discover that, oh my goodness, there's a million things. What do I try?
100%. And like crazily for my son's case, like there is actually like everything from the total experimental through to surgeries that are offered all around the world for him. So like, I don't know how she didn't even tell us that information. But that's exactly it. There's actually lots of things happening on like so many levels. And we've had some incredible life-changing experiences for him just because we know about, and like thinking of a podcast, like there's an amazing podcast in sort of the pediatric space that I know about because I'm lucky enough to know. And I listened to an episode once about sort of a cutting edge treatment. My son was an older kid going to school who was incontinent, and there was a breakthrough out of UCLA about using like a TENS type device on your spine. It's been this breakthrough for motor learning, and we tried it. We tried everything, and within a few days, he was completely continent for like a $300 machine. And it's because I knew about the research. I listened to a podcast. I then contacted the world leader, one of the world leading researchers in this space, and they're actually now studying this. They're doing partnership work with this particular breakthrough. So yeah, that podcast changed my life. So and my son's life.
That's amazing. I think going to your doctor as you do, you had this experience with your son. So many people with long COVID and ME/CFS have had a similar experience where they've gone to their doctor and they've said, I have these symptoms. Some of them may say, I think I might have long COVID, I think I might have ME, or they might be getting the doctor to put those pieces together. And the doctor will turn around and say, oh, well, yeah, I think that's what you have. It's nothing we can really do. You're never going to get better. It's all about managing your condition, and this is kind of you. And like, oh my goodness, like being told that, like that is horrendous. And it's also not true. So I think obviously a doctor can't turn around and say, oh, well, you need to take this pill and that's the treatment and you're going to get better and you're all good. It's not like antibiotics for a strep throat or something. But I feel so strongly that we should never be talking about what we can't do. It's all about what we can, and people are recovering. So saying that you can't recover isn't true. But obviously, we do need to make sure that this information is getting out there to the patients and to the professionals, I suppose, which I guess brings us back to the app, because this app is for both those groups, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, so we didn't intend that in the beginning, and it's definitely not set in stone. So we might change if it's sort of what advice from the community is. I mean, you know more than I do about the trickiness of the connection between the two conditions. So, yeah, we did start with them separate, and then we got a lot of input from people with lived experience and researchers around a lot of the crossover between symptoms, sort of the physical similarities and some of, not all, but and some of the physicality of what's been impacted and the clinical management. And also a lot of people in the community were telling us they were following and enjoying content from both. Like there was a lot of like content that was very valuable, from pacing to breath work to some of the lifestyle things that were super valuable. So it's definitely not set in stone. And we have the ability in the app to, if people give us, we're already getting feedback of mixed things, to just personalize or just, make it that you only are in one community. So and a lot of leading organizations are doing this all across the space. So we did speak to a bunch of people, but it's not set in stone, and I'm not an expert. We are building the app with the community, like truly. So we did launch in cerebral palsy already, and we have thousands of users who have, a lot of people have found a lot of value, because our product is about every day being able to stay on top of what's coming that matters to you. And that's why we're going to other conditions, is because the community have found value. But we are we've already done so much to the app just from work coming to these two new conditions. Like it's made the app so much better. So yeah, we will see how it evolves.
That's great, isn't it? Because everything should evolve as you learn more, as you gain more experience, as you work with people, as you get feedback from them. And you're never going to be able to please everybody, because everyone's different. um but I guess like everything that evolves, I mean, we've done this with our breathing courses. We've been working to tweak them as we've learned, as we've done it more, and I think it's the same. You do improve things and work to make it the best you can for the most people. So I think it's awesome. um why did you call it Turnto? What was the story behind the name?
Yeah, it's very hard to name things. I don't know if I'm sure.
Like Long COVID podcast.
Well, that's good. It's you know what it is. But yeah, we had a few names. I actually had this like moment where I had a friend reach out to me. So when my son was young and we knew something wasn't right, it's sort of, we have some similar experience to the ME long COVID, where there was a lot of being dismissed a lot, and I had some very, very significant experience of medical gaslighting, but also then like on like certain things that were like told you can't do anything, ignored around things were going wrong at home, or we weren't being able to feed, or we couldn't sleep. There were all these prob things and no one was helping us, which was a very strange experience as well. Like to be like, hold on, like, is this, this doesn't seem safe, or, and I just had nowhere to turn to, which is a bit corny. But I had a friend who 2 years after my experience had the same experience, and it really gutted me. Like, and she wrote me an email just how her daughter was born with some health issues, and she just had this terrible experience in the health system where she was really judged and shamed and all these things. And she was just a mother. It was her fifth child. She knew what she was doing. And they just were like totally shaming her. And she's like, I have nowhere to turn to. So it's a little bit like personal, But I just felt like how I was just outraged that she was where I was, and it was years later, and that she was being given nothing when her daughter, there's like dozens of things that they could have been doing to help her daughter, because I now know about those things.
It staggers me. I think it's okay to say that you don't know. And I think more people in the world should say that they don't know because they don't. Don't know if it's society or what, where admitting that you don't know is like some sign of failure. It's like, it's so taboo, I think, to say that you don't know. Whereas actually, I think one of the most comforting things that happened to me during my illness was that I went to my doctor and I said, I have all of this and this and this, and, this has gone wrong and I don't know what to do and blah, 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 blah. And he sort of sat down and he said, I don't actually know, but I will try and work with you to see what we can do, kind of thing, and it was admitting that he didn't have the answers that I just thought, like, thank you for admitting that rather than trying to put it on me or to try to, bullshit me with something that wasn't going to work or whatever. People have experienced some awful things at the hands of doctors, but actually there are so many really good ones. So I think that's it, having that openness to look into things, I think is amazing.
The best doctors, like I love doctors actually, like even though I've had all these experiences, like I think there's some healthcare, just like you said, there's amazing people in the system. And the best people I work with always say, I don't know, but they don't say, I don't know, goodbye. It's like, I don't know. And then it's like this pause, like, well, what can we look into? What is a recent reading? Like we work with one of the most amazing specialists. Like he's a double specialist of genetics and neurology. And he's just like every time we chat, oh, let's look in the last month. What is there being published? Or it's unbelievable that he can be so open. Like when he's like the most knowledgeable, but he's like, I don't know, but hey, oh, I heard of this thing. Let's look into it. Let's read it. There are amazing people out there. I think it's just that unfortunately, when you don't understand something or you're ignorant, you can go down another path.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there's so much pressure put on health professionals, isn't there? And I can't imagine, working as a doctor, it must be a really difficult thing to do. Like, and I think, some patients can be really awful as well, probably, and expecting things and treating doctors in ways that they don't deserve either. So I think it can go both ways for sure. But I think it's a really difficult position. And it's like, the doctors need support as well, bringing us back to sharing of information, right? If the doctors aren't given this information, if they don't have it, then how are they supposed to help their patients? And, some doctors do have the time to go searching, and some probably don't. And some may have an interest for other reasons. Some may have a background in something that is relevant anyway, like someone who's been studying dysautonomia anyway is going to go, oh, okay, I know this. But someone who has never heard of it and has, it's not taught in medical school is not going to have any idea. And, they're probably working like stupid hours anyway. So yeah, it's really tough, isn't it? And I think that education piece is huge.
I agree. I love it all. I think that's why I would have been so impressed. Like it's been super humbling coming into the long COVID and MECFS space. Even though I had that experience myself, I was never in the world of the community, I was living on my own, sort of on my own in it. But it's been very humbling to see the level of advocacy and even reflecting because I'm more in the cerebral palsy world. Like I feel like there's so much other conditions can learn from the community just on the power of advocacy, because it does feel like it's just mind-boggling that medicine training isn't addressing long COVID and ME/CFS and other autoimmune conditions due to the prevalence and the impact on quality of life. And I actually did say to my best friend the other day, because I've been meeting all these amazing people, like yourself, just doing things, just like you're trying to create a new story, right, for the condition and help other people. But I did say to her, I think if I hadn't had the lived experience of ME/CFS, it's like make believe, I look normal, I talk to you and I look normal, and then I lie in the dark for 7 hours. Like it's a crazy, real condition. It just is not understood. Like, but it's more understood now than it was 10 years ago.
And I think that's what makes it so difficult for people who haven't had that experience to understand, because you do look normal, but that's only when people see you. The rest of the time, you're flat out on your back, or, having to do breathing exercises in order to stay upright, or, whatever all these things are. And I think nobody can understand an experience that they haven't gone through, I don't think. But I think, long COVID and ME/CFS, I think, we call them invisible, don't we? Because I think, a lot of what is going on isn't that visible. You may look fine, but you don't feel fine inside. You may appear fine when people see you, but they only see you when you're having a really good day. The rest of the time, you're not functioning. And it's very difficult for people to relate to that, because everyone's been a bit tired, but like this is not that. And it's almost like when people try to relate, they actually end up making it worse sometimes. And I think people, when they say that, they maybe mean well. They're trying to maybe start a conversation or trying to relate to your experience, but it's like when you when you know that your experience is like so totally different to them, I think, we can take that the wrong way as well, which then makes things worse. But I think, yeah, people just don't get it if they haven't had an experience that's relatable, because how could they?
It's very tricky. I think, yeah, it's very diminishing, or I mean, it's just also not the truth. It's not the right. I mean, people try to relate, but it's not the same. You're relating apples and oranges. So it's like, even like in a different context, I remember being very tired after a hospital experience that was super traumatic. And I remember a friend said the same thing to me. Oh, just have a little nap. And I was like, what? Like, this is like a deep physiological like thing that I need weeks of work to like get through. But she wasn't intending to be unkind. She just had no understanding.
We'll be right back. I'm interrupting myself for a second to tell you about long COVID breathing. The fabulous Vicky Jones and I have teamed up to bring you long COVID breathing. We are both passionate about sharing our expertise and experience of the breath and how incredibly helpful that can be with long COVID. We've worked together to develop a course that is specifically tailored to those with long COVID. It's a 6-week course with 12 sessions, all delivered online. The community feel and learning that we're all sharing is such a joy. To find out more information and to sign up for our courses, workshops and other shorter sessions, please check out the link below, longcovidbreathing.com, or email longcovidbreathing@gmail.com to start your breathing journey with us. Yeah, and I think that's a lot of it, isn't it? It's that, people aren't meaning to be unkind. They aren't meaning. I mean, some are. Let's be real. Some people are, but I think the majority of people aren't trying to be hurtful. They're probably trying to help, but you can say a well-meaning thing in a totally wrong way, or it can be taken the wrong way. And again, I think it just deepens that divide, doesn't it, between like the healthy people and the long COVID people. And there's already a big enough divide there because, of that sense of isolation and not being able to do things and not feeling part of life, I think, in a big way. So, yeah, let's talk through some of the features. So, I've been having a little bit of a play around with the app, and I feel like I've barely scratched the surface. So, yeah, maybe you can take us through like some of the main things.
Love to. So the way that our app, the sort of first thing that we're offering is just an easy, more passive way to stay on top of things that are really important to you. And at the same time, capture more things. So capture more things from people with lived experience and practitioners and share that straight back to people. I think there's a lot of different ways we can look for breakthrough health information, and it is all over the place at the moment. Like you have to go and look at Google Scholar, and maybe you're on Instagram, or maybe you're on Twitter, or maybe you're in a Facebook group. And there's just lots of different conversations happening. But what we do is we just give you a 5 to 10 minute experience every day where there's 5 to 10 posts, a little bit like TikTok in that it's full screen and you could just swipe through it. And we try and do all the content pieces. So from research papers to events to trials. And then there's a bunch of user-generated content. So people sharing things, their best breakthrough, their best tips. We've just brought on professional AMAs, so professionals sharing every day and again, just trying to democratize access to some leading thinking and people who have, sort of forging the way. And so, yeah, that's the core experience. Then we sort of take all that content and you can use search to sort through it. Then we have a feed as well. And so that's the first value is just being able to follow a bunch of tags that you care about, get it given to you in a more passive, easier to understand way. We make everything in more plain English. We're trying to make things more accessible. And we've had so much amazing feedback, even in the last 6 days since we've been live. And we've already actioned a whole bunch of it to make it, particularly with some of the sensory stuff, it's definitely going to need some improvement. But yeah, that's the first experience. And again, like our problem is how do our mission is to speed up breakthroughs for every single person. Like it is just the beginning. And like even in the last week, we have so much content that has been shared, and the quality of this community, we've literally, as our team, everyone is like, because we have human moderators who have lived experience, everyone's having to help them, which we laugh about. It's a really good problem to have, but the quality of what people are sharing is just so rich. It's a real testimony to like how much people are wanting to share with others. So yeah, we've got some really cool things coming up around like better ways to search that, better ways to have personalization. We've got a really cool AI thing coming in so people can actually just get the power of that themselves, of how to like find answers that they need or insights that they need. Yeah, so that's the product right now. Always changing though, every day.
And I love that you're kind of open to the feedback as well. I think, it's coming back to the I don't know thing, isn't it? That actually you're gonna make it better by listening to what people want. And that you're open to that, means that it's gonna get better. I guess, it's like you're saying, helping people to find the right information that is appropriate for them. We talked earlier about the problem of finding information and, it getting to people. But it's almost like if we end up with the opposite problem where there's too much and you're like, right, I have all of the information and it's in the palm of my hand. And actually, I don't even know where to start. Like, oh my goodness. So, this being able to kind of personalize it to you. I think when I went through it said pick your symptoms or something. So you can, put in the things that you have and then it won't send you stuff about tinnitus if you don't have it.
Just so for all you early users, that'll get better over the next few weeks. So we actually haven't turned on all personalization because we're waiting for feedback around and this is again, like when we've been in cerebral palsy, like a bunch of people in the community didn't want overly personalization, which is super interesting because it's a lifetime disease. And so people are like, we actually like seeing the lifetime because they want to see what adults are saying and they want to see. So we're going to be bringing in more of that. For all you early users out there, tell us because we can turn on extreme personalization, but we also can keep a little bit of like the main heading. So for example, like, yesterday, I know there was a new resource published on a definition for long COVID. Like, so that's at the front. But, there's always going to be this more like general sort of important pieces. But yeah, we really want to hear from you. And we actually have a public website. Our team of super experimental. And so we've been loving it. We put up a public website where you can put in what we should do better and upvote and downvote what you don't want us to do next. And we really have listened. So like when we started this community, a few people were like, oh, I don't want to use my own name. And we're like, awesome. Okay, we've changed it. So that's already changed. And then people are like, I don't want to use, like some people use photos and some people want an avatar. So we built this really fun avatar where you get like a really cool image. Like it's I really like it. Maybe no one else does. Tell me if you don't like it. We're just tweaking stuff continuously, or like, people didn't want to add this type of content information, so we changed it. And
I guess as well, like in terms of the sort of long COVID accessibility thing, that's going to be really different for different people. Some people struggle with screens, some people struggle with like
hearing things. So, I suppose being able to sort of personalize in those sorts of ways as well. I discovered the other day that apparently red is quite a triggering color for some people, but not for everybody. And I'm thinking, well, how can you do that if it's so different for everybody? You're never going to please everyone. But I suppose if you can personalize your own, then actually people can pick, colors, for example, or content maybe. Are you able to select whether you get written content or audio content? Is that something you can do?
All the future dreams. At the moment, like we try and sub, it's really funny. There's a bug right now if you're an early user. So all videos, probably at the moment, you're seeing 50% of videos are captioned. So like we're trying to do things so it can be completely mute. Everything is text. There's that. But we have a long way to go on accessibility. I mean, we truly are trying. Someone mentioned, oh, they hated something that was auto playing, and we just turned it off like literally within 10 minutes of getting the comment. So I think it's just a journey, and some things are really easy to do, like captioning, super easy with the technology. The other day someone asked for us to be multi-language, and along a few years ago that would have been like really, really hard to do, but we're actually like that would be something you could do in a few months, just with the amazing technology that's come out. So it's a work in progress, and it's going to make it better for everybody to be able to bring in these accessibility pieces.
Yeah, definitely. I think being an English speaking person in an English speaking country and communicating with people largely, not entirely, but largely in other English speaking countries, we're very privileged, I think. And we kind of forget that, there's a huge number of people, certainly for whom English isn't their first language. And that, yeah, this content, we have a hard enough time getting hold of this content and sharing this content within one language. If you are of a different language, like that must be such a massively different problem, given that so much of the information shared is in English. And it's like, I feel like there must be a way. And maybe, as you say, maybe, the technology is now at a point where it can really help with that.
100%. I mean, we could do it. Like, I mean, we're a small team, like we're a small startup. A bunch of our team are not paid. A bunch of our team are like we are small and doing our best with limited resources. And like we could do it. Like we were doing nothing else if we were like not fixing all the other bugs and trying to improve search and listen, if we just wanted to do land translation, like it is incredible what technology can do right now. Like it's very achievable. So it's
Yeah.
exciting. Future things.
Yeah, it is. And I suppose it's part of this whole like, constantly there's always going to be something that we could do better, isn't it? And as more technology becomes available, you can maybe plug that in and it'll give you a whole load extra stuff.
That's right. And that's what's happening with OpenAI and ChatGPT. Like we actually brought in their one product called Whisper, and it's super cool because in cerebral palsy, a lot of people have speech, which is not always clear. And we were doing a really bad job at subtitling, and we brought in this ChatGPT, and like it's like perfect translation. And so I actually got a very emotional, which is on like technology. I'm such a geek because I was just like, my son has a speech impediment, and I'm like, there's no limitations. Like, he can speak and get perfectly transcribed. Now, obviously, it's not going to do every single person, but like, it's so good that you're like, wow, like this is like changed the lives of people, who are never understood. AI is understanding them and translate, and it's almost perfect subtitles. So.
I think technology can get a bad rep sometimes, I think, because, technology isn't the answer to everything. 100% it's not. And like, actually, we can get so caught up in technology that we forget that there is a world out there that we should be, looking at trees instead of our phones. But I think at the same time, like, there's a lot of good there as well if it's used in the right context, in the right way. And like you say, for somebody who is never understood to suddenly be able to have that capability, that would be amazing. So, being able to harness technology in the right ways, I think is something that is super powerful. I guess we just need to be careful about how it's used and not having an iRobot situation.
100%. I mean, I think it is really exciting also for long COVID and ME/CFS. I mean, I am a real techno optimist, but I think just the volume of knowledge that exists, it's very hard to like get a grasp on like all that's happening, like even for world leaders. So it's just something that technology can do, and like we hope in the next few months, like things we're going to release a a one-stop shop website. We're going to release a whole bunch of stuff to the community, and we think like it's just there's so much potential to speed up knowledge or gaps. Like often like trials, like they're all happening in certain areas, and there's just gaps everywhere, and like often it's patient voices that aren't being listened to or are not setting the priorities in spaces. So yeah, we've already built. It's not live in the app because we're working it out still. But we built this thing where you asked a crowd question and the AI would go and find you 6 really good resources, like really good papers, and it's doing an amazing job. And it makes me really excited because I just think one of the values in Turn 2 is context and perspective. Like I don't believe patients need vanilla answers; they need nuance, particularly in a complex condition, because it's heterogeneous. You don't actually know what is going to work for you if now's the right time. You don't want to be told, I don't think, yes or no. You want to be told the complexity. Well, in this group it's working, or these people are liking it, or these are the side effects, or this is what you want to know the whole spectrum. What does the latest scientists think about it? Who's opposed it? Who's for it? To make those choices. So yeah, really, really optimistic about things that we can sort of improve that the difference of being on social media where you hear a comment and you just don't know, like, is that something? Should you be doing that? Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess because so many people are DIYing it themselves, because that is the only option they really have. And, people that are recovering, people that are improving, they've generally done it through working stuff out on their own. I mean, certainly that was my experience. It was stuff that I found, and that's great. But also, let's share that information and then we can sort of help other people to do things with maybe a little bit more knowledge. So, how do people get hold of Turnto?
Yeah, so we're in the App Store. You just type in Turn 2, and I think it says daily health breakthroughs. So come in, you just select the community. Yeah, that's it's very, very easy. We also are on a bunch of different social platforms, sharing what we're doing and things that the community are learning together.
And I will make sure that links and everything go in the show notes so anyone can follow that and check you out. And yeah, hopefully find it really useful. Jess, thank you so much. It's been so much fun chatting and hearing all about app and what led you to it and everything. So good luck with what it becomes. I'm excited to see.
Thanks so much. And can't wait to hear more from the community on how we can keep making it better.
Thank you so much to all of my guests and to you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it, or at least found it useful. The Long COVID podcast is entirely self-produced and self-funded. I'm doing all of this myself. If you're able to, please go to buymeacoffee.com/longcovidpod to help me cover the costs of hosting the podcast. Please look out for the next episode of the Long COVID podcast. It's available on all the usual podcast hosting things. And do get in touch